I should have known something was wrong when I found my laptop moved 3 inches to the left on my desk. But honestly, after working 14-hour days and coming home to a house full of people who treated me like their personal ATM, I barely had the energy to notice my own reflection in the mirror. My name is Zaylee, and 6 months ago, I thought I was being the perfect daughter and sister. My parents had lost their house after Dad's construction business went under, and my little sister Sydney was drowning in student debt with nowhere to go. So naturally, when I finally bought my dream house in the suburbs, a beautiful 3-bedroom with a home office that overlooked the garden, I opened my doors to all of them. "Zaylee, we're out of groceries again," Mom called from the kitchen as I walked through the front door at 9 p.m., my laptop bag weighing down my shoulder like a brick. "I just went shopping 3 days ago," I said, dropping my keys on the counter. "Well, you know how Sydney eats when she's stressed about job hunting." Mom's voice carried that familiar tone, the one that somehow made everything my responsibility. I found Sydney sprawled across my living room couch, her boyfriend Emmett's arm draped around her shoulders. They were watching Netflix on my 75-inch TV, empty takeout containers scattered across my coffee table. "Hey, sis," Sydney chirped, without looking away from the screen. "How was work?" "Long," I said, noticing Dad asleep in my recliner, the one I'd saved up for months to buy. "Did anyone think to maybe clean up the kitchen?" "Oh, we were going to," Emmett said, finally glancing up with that easy smile of his. "But Sydney had a panic attack about her interview tomorrow, so we figured we'd handle it later." Sydney nodded dramatically. "It's just so stressful, you know? Not everyone can be a workaholic like you." I bit back my response. Sydney had been job hunting for 4 months, but somehow her interviews always fell through, or the positions weren't quite right, or she needed more time to prepare. Meanwhile, I was pulling 60-hour weeks as a project manager at Innovate Solutions, trying to land the Morrison account that could make my career. "Speaking of work," Emmett said, his voice casual but his eyes suddenly focused. "How's that big project going? The one with all the client data?" "It's fine," I said, not wanting to get into details. Emmett worked for Pinnacle Tech, one of our biggest competitors, and even though he seemed harmless enough, I'd learned to keep work talk to a minimum. "Must be tough handling all that sensitive information," he continued. "I bet you have to work from home a lot, right here in your office?" Something in his tone made me pause, but Sydney jumped in before I could think too hard about it. "God, Emmett, you're as bad as she is with the work talk. Can we please just have one normal evening?" Mom emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Zaylee, honey, you look exhausted. You really should consider slowing down. All this career obsession isn't healthy." "My career obsession is what's keeping a roof over everyone's head," I said, immediately regretting the sharpness in my voice. The room went quiet. Dad stirred in the recliner but didn't wake up. "We're grateful," Mom said softly. "You know that. It's just, family should come first sometimes." "Family is why I'm working so hard," I replied, grabbing a water bottle from the fridge. "I'm going to get some work done upstairs." As I climbed the stairs to my office, I heard Sydney whisper something to Emmett, followed by quiet laughter. My chest tightened, but I pushed the feeling down. They were stressed, displaced, dealing with their own problems. I was being too sensitive. My office was my sanctuary, the one space in the house that was still completely mine. I'd set it up perfectly. Desk facing the window, files organized in color-coded folders, my awards and certifications hanging on the wall behind my chair. But something felt off. I set my laptop down and looked around. The desk chair was pulled out further than I usually left it. My pen holder was turned slightly. The stack of Morrison project files seemed different somehow. I shook my head. I was being paranoid. Living with 3 extra people meant things got moved around. It was normal. But as I opened my laptop and logged into the company system, my stomach dropped. My performance metrics were down 15% from last month. 3 of my key project milestones showed as missed, even though I'd submitted everything on time. And somehow Pinnacle Tech had just landed a client that sounded suspiciously similar to one I'd been courting for weeks. I stared at the screen, that familiar feeling of unease creeping up my spine. Something was definitely wrong. I just didn't know yet how wrong things really were. The Morrison account was gone by Thursday. I sat in the conference room, watching my boss Marcus deliver the news with the enthusiasm of someone announcing a funeral. Pinnacle Tech came in with a proposal that was remarkably similar to ours, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. But they undercut us by 30% and somehow knew exactly which features to highlight. That's impossible, I said. We've been working on Morrison for 3 months. How could they? I don't know, Zaylee, but the client said Pinnacle's presentation felt like they'd been inside our heads. The words hit me like a physical blow. Inside our heads. I thought about my disturbed office, my shifted files, Emmett's casual questions about my work. The promotion committee met this morning, Marcus continued. Given the recent performance issues, they've decided to go with Jenkins for the senior manager position. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Jenkins had been with the company 2 years less than me and had never landed an account bigger than $50,000. After the meeting, I found Tiffany waiting by my desk with 2 cups of coffee and a concerned expression. Rough morning? She asked, handing me a cup. You could say that. I slumped into my chair. Lost Morrison, lost the promotion, and apparently I'm having performance issues I didn't know about. Tiffany perched on the edge of my desk. That's weird. Your work has been solid. Better than solid. Tell that to the metric system. Have you been working from home more lately? She asked casually. Sometimes remote access can mess with the tracking software. I looked up at her. Why do you ask? I don't know, just, you seem stressed, more than usual. And last week when I called you at home, I could hear a lot of people in the background, sounded chaotic. My family's staying with me temporarily. Right. Tiffany sipped her coffee thoughtfully. How's that going? Fine, I said automatically, then caught her expression. Why? Nothing specific. It's just, sometimes when people are going through big life changes, things at work can get complicated. Before I could ask what she meant, my phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. Can you pick up dinner on your way home? Mom's making her special lasagna, but we need ingredients. Thanks. I showed Tiffany the message. See? They're making dinner. It's sweet. Mm-hmm. Tiffany's tone was carefully neutral. What kind of work do you do from your home office? Mostly client presentations, project planning. Why? Just curious. You've got good security on your home network, right? The question sent a chill through me. Of course. Why would you ask that? No reason. Just, with all the corporate espionage stuff in the news lately, you can never be too careful. That evening, I stopped at the grocery store and loaded my cart with ingredients for Mom's lasagna. $68 later, I pulled into my driveway to find Emmett's car parked in my usual spot. There she is, Mom called as I walked in with the bags. Our little breadwinner. The comment stung more than it should have. I set the groceries on the counter and started unpacking. How was work, honey? Dad asked from his permanent position in my recliner. Lost a big account today, I said, pulling out the ground beef. Oh no! Sydney appeared in the kitchen doorway. That's terrible. Was it that Morrison thing you've been obsessing over? I wasn't obsessing, I was working. Same difference with you, she said with a laugh. Emmett, come tell Zaylee about your good news. Emmett emerged from the living room grinning. Got a big promotion today. Senior account manager. Apparently I impressed the hell out of the client committee. My hands stilled on the grocery bag. Which client? Some manufacturing company. Morrison something? They loved our proposal. The can of tomatoes slipped from my fingers and hit the floor with a loud clang. Everyone turned to stare at me. You okay, sis? Sydney asked. Fine, I managed. Just tired. You work too hard, Mom said, taking the groceries from me. Go relax. We'll handle dinner. I walked upstairs on unsteady legs, my mind racing. Morrison Manufacturing. The same client. The same proposal that had felt like Pinnacle was inside our heads. In my office, I stood in the doorway and really looked this time. The desk chair wasn't just pulled out, it was adjusted to a different height. My monitor was tilted at an angle I never used. The small plant on my windowsill had been moved 6 inches to the right. I walked slowly around the room, examining everything with new eyes. Behind my bookshelf, something caught the light. Something small and black, no bigger than a button, tucked between 2 books and aimed directly at my desk. My hand shook as I reached for it. It was warm to the touch, still recording. From downstairs, I heard laughter and the clink of wine glasses. Sydney's voice carried up the stairs. To Emmett's promotion. He totally deserves it after all his hard work. More laughter. The sound of a toast. I sat down heavily in my desk chair, the tiny camera burning in my palm like a coal. Everything clicked into place. The questions, the moved files, the impossible coincidences. My own family had been spying on me, and they were downstairs celebrating. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table at 3 a.m., staring at the tiny camera and planning my next move. Going downstairs and screaming at them would feel good for about 5 minutes, but it wouldn't get me answers. I needed to know how deep this went. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. Food poisoning, I told Marcus. Probably be out until Monday. After everyone left the house, Dad to his part-time handyman job, Mom to her book club, Sydney to another interview, I started my investigation. I found Dave through a mutual friend from college. He ran a small IT security business and agreed to meet me at a coffee shop downtown. "So you think your house is bugged?" he asked, stirring his latte. "I know it is. I found this." I slid the camera across the table. Dave examined it with a small magnifying glass. Professional grade, wireless transmission, probably streams to a smartphone app. This isn't some Amazon spy gadget. Someone spent real money on this. "Can you sweep my house?" "Sure, but I need to ask. Do you have any idea who might be doing this?" I hesitated. "Maybe. Can you also check if my laptop's been compromised?" "Bring it by my office this afternoon. I'll run a full diagnostic." Back home, I placed my own recording device, a small digital recorder I'd bought for work meetings, behind a picture frame in the living room. Then I waited. Sydney came home first, around 2 p.m., looking frustrated. "How'd the interview go?" I asked from the kitchen. "Terrible. They asked all these technical questions I wasn't prepared for." She flopped onto the couch. "I don't know why finding a job has to be so hard." "Maybe because you're not actually looking for one," I said quietly. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just making conversation." Mom arrived an hour later, arms full of shopping bags. "I thought we were trying to save money," I said, watching her unpack new throw pillows. "These were on sale. Besides, this place needs some warmth. It's so sterile." "It's my house." "Of course it is, honey. I just think a little personality wouldn't hurt." When Dad got home, I suggested we order pizza for dinner. "My treat," I said. "We should celebrate Emmett's promotion properly." "That's sweet of you," Mom said. "You're being very understanding about everything." "Everything?" "You know. The job loss, the promotion going to someone else. It must be hard." I smiled. "I'm learning to roll with the punches." Emmett arrived as the pizza was being delivered. He seemed unusually cheerful, practically bouncing as he walked in. "Good day?" I asked. "The best. My boss is really impressed with my recent work. Says I have a real talent for anticipating client needs." "That's a useful skill, right? It's like I can read their minds or something." We gathered around the dining room table, and I made sure to keep the conversation light and friendly. I asked Emmett about his work, his future plans, his relationship with Sydney. "We're thinking about getting our own place soon," he said, reaching for Sydney's hand. "Now that I'm making better money?" "That's wonderful," I said. "You've been so generous letting us stay here," Sydney added. "But we don't want to overstay our welcome." "Your family. You're always welcome." The lie tasted bitter. but I needed them comfortable. I needed them talking. After dinner, I excused myself to take a work call and went upstairs. Through my bedroom window, I watched Emmett and Sydney walk to his car. They stood there for 10 minutes, talking animatedly. I couldn't hear the words, but their body language was excited, conspiratorial. When they came back inside, I was already in bed with the lights off. The next morning, Dave called with his results. "Your laptop's been compromised," he said. "Someone installed remote access software about 4 months ago. They've been able to see everything, your screen, your files, even activate your camera and microphone." 4 months. That was right around when my family moved in. There's more. I found 2 additional cameras in your house. One in your living room, one in your kitchen. All the same professional-grade equipment. Can you tell where the feeds are going? Working on it. But Zaylee, whoever did this had physical access to your devices and your house. This is someone you trust. That evening, I sat in my office staring at my laptop screen. I'd left a fake document open, a proposal for a fictional client called Meridian Industries. If my suspicions were right, Pinnacle Tech would suddenly develop an interest in Meridian within the next few days. Around 10 p.m., I heard voices from downstairs. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. "Told you this would work," Sydney was saying. "She's so predictable." "I still feel bad about it," Dad's voice quieter. "Don't," Mom replied firmly. "She's had every advantage. Good education, good job, this house. It's time Sydney got her turn." "The bonus alone will cover our apartment deposit," Emmett said. "And my boss hinted at another promotion if I keep delivering intel like this." "Just make sure she doesn't get suspicious," Sydney said. "She's been acting weird lately." "She's fine," Mom said. "Zaylee's always been too trusting. She'd never suspect her own family." I gripped the banister so hard my knuckles went white. Below me, they continued planning my professional destruction, like they were discussing the weather. "How much longer do we need to keep this up?" Dad asked. "Until I'm established at Pinnacle," Emmett said. "Maybe 6 more months. Then we can move out and she'll never know what happened." They laughed. Actually laughed. I walked back to my room and closed the door silently. My hands were shaking as I picked up my phone and started a new voice memo. "Day 3 of investigation," I whispered. "I have confirmation. They're all in on it." The recording device I'd hidden downstairs had captured everything, every word, every laugh, every casual discussion of my betrayal. Now I just had to decide what to do with it. I waited 3 more days, collecting evidence and planning my approach. When I finally decided to confront them, I made sure everything was perfect. Friday night, I suggested we have a family game night. "That sounds lovely," Mom said, looking surprised. "You've been so busy lately." "I realized I've been neglecting what's really important," I said, setting up the recording app on my phone. "Family should come first, right?" We gathered in the living room with a bottle of wine and a deck of cards. I made sure my phone was positioned perfectly on the coffee table, hidden behind a decorative bowl, but with a clear view of everyone. "So, Emmett," I said, dealing the cards, "how's the new position working out?" "Great! Really great. My boss says I have incredible instincts for what clients want." "That's amazing. It's like you can predict their needs before they even know them." "Exactly." He leaned forward, animated. "Like this Morrison account, I knew exactly what they were looking for." "Morrison?" I kept my voice casual. "Wasn't that the client I was working on?" The room went quiet for a beat. Sydney jumped in quickly. "What a coincidence, right? Same name, probably a different company." "Must be," I agreed. "Though it's funny, I lost that account the same week Emmett got his promotion." "Life's weird like that," Dad said, not meeting my eyes. I poured more wine, making sure everyone's glasses stayed full. "You know what I love about this family? We've always been honest with each other." "Of course we have," Mom said, though her smile looked strained. "Remember when we were kids, Sydney, and you broke Mom's vase? You could have blamed me, but you told the truth." Sydney laughed nervously. "We were just kids." But the principle's the same. Family doesn't lie to family. I looked around the room. We don't betray each other. Why would you even bring that up? Sydney asked. No reason. Just thinking about trust lately. Like, if someone in this family was doing something that hurt me, they'd tell me, right? The silence stretched uncomfortably. Emmett shifted in his seat. Of course, Mom said finally. We'd never hurt you intentionally. Intentionally, I repeated. That's an interesting word choice. Zaylee, what's this about? Dad asked. I leaned back, studying their faces. I've been having problems at work. Lost clients, missed promotions. My boss thinks there might be a security breach. Emmett's face went pale. A security breach? Someone's been accessing confidential information. Client data, project plans, that sort of thing. That's terrible, Sydney said. Do they know who? They're investigating. Apparently it's someone with inside access, someone I trust. The room was dead silent now. I could hear the clock ticking on the mantel. The weird thing is, I continued, some of my files at home have been moved around. My office feels different lately. Maybe you're just stressed, Mom suggested. You work so much it's easy to forget where you put things. Maybe, or maybe someone's been going through my stuff. Emmett stood up abruptly. I should probably head home. Early morning tomorrow. Sit down, Emmett. My voice was calm but firm. We're having a family conversation. He sat back down reluctantly. Here's what I think happened, I said, pouring myself more wine. I think someone in this room has been spying on me, stealing my work, sabotaging my career. That's crazy, Sydney said, but her voice cracked. Is it? Because I found some interesting things this week. Cameras, for instance. Emmett's wine glass slipped from his hand, spilling red wine across my white coffee table. Oops, he said weakly. Don't worry about it, I said. I'll clean it up later, along with everything else. Zaylee, you're scaring us, Mom said. Am I? Because I'm not the one who should be scared right now. I reached for my phone and stopped the recording. Then I started a new one, this time holding it openly. Let me ask you directly, has anyone in this room been accessing my work computer? No one answered. Has anyone been photographing my documents? Still silence. Has anyone been feeding information to Pinnacle Tech? Emmett broke first. Look, it's not what you think. Emmett, shut up, Sydney hissed. No, let him talk, I said. Please, explain to me what I think. It was just, we needed the money. Sydney's student loans, your parents' situation. I thought if I could get ahead at work, I could help everyone. By destroying my career. It wasn't supposed to hurt you this much. Just a few clients, maybe slow down your promotions so Sydney could catch up. So Sydney could catch up. I looked at my sister. This was your idea? Sydney's face crumpled. You have everything, Zaylee. The house, the job, the perfect life. What's wrong with wanting some of that for myself? So you decided to steal it. We decided to level the playing field, Mom said, her voice defensive. You've always been the golden child. Sydney deserves her chance. By sabotaging me. By giving her the same advantages you've had, Dad said quietly. I looked around the room at these people I'd called family. How long has this been going on? 4 months, Emmett admitted. Since the day you moved in. We didn't plan it, Sydney said desperately. It just happened. Emmett mentioned he was struggling at work and I thought maybe you could help, and then we realized. You realized you could help yourselves to my life. It's not like that. I stood up, phone still recording. Actually, it's exactly like that. Where are you going? Mom asked. To my room, to think about what kind of family I really have. As I reached the doorway, I heard Sydney whisper to Emmett, Do you think she'll actually do anything? Then Mom's voice, bitter and low. She won't. She's too soft. She'll forgive us like she always does. Their laughter followed me up the stairs. I sat on my bed, staring at my phone. 43 minutes of recorded confession. Every detail, every justification, every casual dismissal of my pain. They thought I was too soft to fight back. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Saturday morning, I drove to Dave's office with a folder full of evidence. Audio recordings, photos of the cameras, screenshots of my compromised laptop, even email timestamps showing when my files were accessed. "This is solid," Dave said, reviewing everything. Corporate espionage, invasion of privacy, theft of intellectual property. You could press charges. I want to do something else first. What do you have in mind? I need you to help me put together a professional presentation, something that would impress a CEO. Dave raised an eyebrow. You're going after the boyfriend's company? I'm going after justice. That afternoon, I met Tiffany for coffee. She took one look at my face and ordered us both double shots. You look like you haven't slept in days, she said. I haven't. Tiffany, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. If someone betrayed you, really betrayed you, how far would you go to make it right? She stirred her coffee slowly. That depends. Are we talking about justice or revenge? What's the difference? Justice is about making things fair. Revenge is about making them hurt. She looked at me carefully. Which one are you after? I don't know anymore. Want to talk about it? I almost told her everything. The words were right there, ready to spill out. But something held me back. Hypothetically, I said instead, if you found out your family was sabotaging your career, what would you do? Tiffany's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. Your family? Hypothetically. Zaylee, is everything okay at home? Just answer the question. She set down her cup. Hypothetically? I'd be devastated. Family is supposed to be your safe place, you know? If you can't trust them, who can you trust? But what would you do about it? I'd probably confront them first. Try to understand why. Maybe there's something I'm missing. And if there wasn't? If they just didn't care about hurting you? Tiffany was quiet for a long moment. Then I guess I'd have to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. Someone who lets people walk all over them, or someone who stands up for themselves. Even if it meant losing your family? Honey, if they're willing to destroy you for their own gain, have you really lost anything worth keeping? Sunday evening, I sat in my home office, staring at my laptop screen. I'd drafted an email to William Mann, CEO of Pinnacle Tech. The subject line read, "Urgent, corporate espionage involving your employee." My finger hovered over the send button. From downstairs, I could hear the TV and casual conversation. Sydney was laughing at something Emmett said. Mom was humming while she cooked dinner, in my kitchen with groceries I'd bought. They had no idea what was coming. I thought about Tiffany's question. Justice or revenge? Maybe there wasn't a difference. I clicked send. The response came faster than I expected. William Mann's assistant called Monday morning while I was getting ready for work. "Mr. Mann would like to schedule a meeting with you at your earliest convenience," she said. "He's very interested in discussing the information you provided." "How about today at lunch?" "Perfect. 1 o'clock at his office." I spent the morning at work, pretending everything was normal. When Marcus asked how I was feeling, I told him I was much better and ready to tackle new projects. "Good to hear. We've got the Meridian Industries proposal coming up. Think you can handle it?" I almost smiled. Absolutely. At 12:45, I walked into Pinnacle Tech's downtown office building. The lobby was all glass and steel, designed to intimidate. I wasn't intimidated. William Mann was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-40s, with the kind of sharp suit that cost more than most people's rent. He shook my hand firmly and gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Ms. Whitney, thank you for coming in. I have to say, your email was quite disturbing." I imagine it was. "Before we proceed, I need to ask, are you absolutely certain about these allegations?" I pulled out my folder and placed it on his desk. Audio recordings, video evidence, digital forensics report. Everything's documented. He spent 20 minutes reviewing the materials. his expression growing darker with each page. "This is extensive," he said finally, "and extremely damaging. If what you're saying is true, Emmett has committed multiple felonies." "It's true. Why bring this to me instead of the police?" "Because I want to give you the chance to handle it internally first. Clean up your company's reputation before this becomes a public scandal." He leaned back in his chair. "What do you want from me?" "I want Emmett fired. I want him blacklisted from the industry. And I want it done in a way that sends a message to anyone else who might think corporate espionage is acceptable." "That's quite a request." "It's quite a crime." William Mann was quiet for a long moment, then reached for his phone. "Sarah, cancel my afternoon meetings, and get me legal on the line immediately." He looked at me. "Ms. Whitney, would you be available to stay for another hour? I think we need to discuss the details of how we're going to handle this." "I have all the time in the world." As his assistant brought in coffee and legal documents, I thought about my family at home, probably planning their evening around my paycheck and my generosity. They had no idea their world was about to collapse, but they would soon. "One more question," William said, as his lawyers filed into the room. "Do you want to be present when we confront Emmett?" I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Actually, I have a better idea." Tuesday evening, I stopped at the grocery store and bought everything for the most elaborate dinner I'd ever planned. Filet mignon, lobster tails, expensive wine, chocolate cake from the bakery. The cashier looked at me like I was planning a wedding. "Special occasion?" she asked. "You could say that." At home, I found everyone in their usual positions. Dad in my recliner, Mom reorganizing my kitchen cabinets, Sydney and Emmett cuddled on my couch. "What's all this?" Mom asked, seeing the grocery bags. "I wanted to make a special dinner for everyone, to apologize for being so moody lately." "You don't need to apologize," Sydney said, though she looked pleased. "We understand you're stressed about work." "That's just it. I realized I've been looking at everything wrong. Work isn't the most important thing. Family is." Emmett perked up. "That's a healthy perspective, right? I mean, what's the point of success if you can't share it with the people you love?" I started unpacking the groceries, making a show of the expensive ingredients. "I thought we could celebrate your promotion properly, Emmett. You've worked so hard for it." "That's really sweet of you," he said, and for a moment he almost looked guilty. "Plus, I have some good news of my own. Remember that Meridian Industries account I mentioned? We landed it today. Huge commission." The lie rolled off my tongue easily. I watched Emmett's face carefully. Sure enough, his eyes lit up with interest. "Meridian Industries?" he asked casually. "What kind of company are they?" "Tech manufacturing. Very innovative stuff. The contract details are fascinating." "I bet. What kind of details?" "Oh, proprietary technology, client databases, expansion plans, the usual." I smiled innocently. "I'll probably be working on it from home this week. Lots of confidential documents to review." I caught the quick glance he exchanged with Sydney. Hook, line, and sinker. "Well, we should definitely celebrate," Mom said. "Both of your successes." "Absolutely. Dinner will be ready at 7. I want everyone dressed up. This is a special night." I spent the afternoon cooking, humming while I worked. Every few minutes my phone buzzed with updates from William Mann's assistant. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. At 6:30, I set the dining room table with my good china and lit candles. The whole house smelled like expensive food and fresh flowers. "This is incredible," Sydney said, appearing in a dress I'd never seen before. "You really went all out." "Only the best for my family." Dad emerged from upstairs wearing an actual button-down shirt instead of his usual t-shirt. "Smells amazing in here." "Where's Mom?" "Getting ready. She's excited. She loves when we do fancy dinners." Emmett arrived at exactly 7, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "You clean up nice," I told him. "Thanks. This is really thoughtful of you, Zaylee. I know things have been tense lately. Water under the bridge. Tonight's about moving forward. Mom made her grand entrance in a black dress with jewelry I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. My goodness, this looks like a restaurant. Better than a restaurant, I said, pouring wine for everyone. This is family. We sat down to dinner, and I made sure to keep the conversation light and celebratory. I asked Emmett about his future plans at Pinnacle, complimented Sydney on her dress, thanked my parents for all their support. You seem different tonight, Sydney observed. More relaxed. I feel different, like I've finally figured out what really matters. Which is? Loyalty, trust, making sure the people who deserve good things actually get them. Emmett raised his glass. I'll drink to that. To getting what we deserve, I agreed, clinking my glass against his. As we ate, I regaled them with stories about my fake Meridian project, dropping just enough technical details to sound convincing. I could see Emmett filing away every word. The client database alone is worth millions, I said, cutting into my steak. All their competitor information, market research, future product plans. It's like having a crystal ball for the entire industry. Sounds valuable, Emmett said. Incredibly valuable. The kind of information that could make or break a company. You'll have to be careful with security, Dad said. That kind of data would be tempting to the wrong people. Oh, I'm being very careful about who I trust, I said, looking directly at Emmett. Very careful indeed. By dessert, everyone was relaxed and laughing. The wine had done its job. Their guards were completely down. This has been perfect, Mom said, squeezing my hand. Just like old times. Better than old times, I said. Because now we all know exactly where we stand with each other. What do you mean? Sydney asked. I mean we're past all the pretending, all the games. Everything's out in the open now. Before anyone could ask what I meant, Emmett's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. Sorry, it's my boss. I should probably... Take it, I said, smiling. We don't mind. He answered the call, and I watched his face change as he listened to the voice on the other end. What? No, that's impossible. I'm at dinner with... He looked around the table, his eyes wide with growing panic. Can this wait until tomorrow? The voice on the phone got louder. Even from across the table, I could hear William Mann's angry tone. Put it on speaker, I said cheerfully. We're all family here. Emmett's hand was shaking as he pressed the speaker button. Expect you in my office immediately. William's voice filled the dining room. We have some very serious allegations to discuss. The color drained from Emmett's face. Around the table, my family sat frozen, forks halfway to their mouths. Allegations? Emmett's voice cracked. Corporate espionage, Mr. Stewart. We have evidence that you've been stealing confidential information from a competitor. The authorities have been notified. Sydney dropped her fork. It clattered against her plate like a gunshot. I took a sip of wine and smiled. Surprise! The silence that followed was deafening. Emmett stared at his phone like it might explode. Mr. Stewart? William's voice crackled through the speaker. Are you there? Yes, sir. I'm here. Good. As I was saying, we have audio recordings, video evidence, and digital forensics proving you've been accessing confidential information from Innovate Solutions through illegal surveillance. You have 30 minutes to get to my office, or I'm calling the police directly. Emmett's eyes darted around the table, landing on me last. Zaylee? Oh, don't look at me like that, I said, cutting another piece of cake. You should probably go. Sounds important. You did this. His voice was barely a whisper. I did what? Had dinner with my family? The recordings? The evidence? What recordings? Sydney interrupted, her voice shrill. What is he talking about? William's voice cut through the confusion. Ms. Whitney provided us with extensive documentation of your corporate espionage operation, 4 months of stolen data, compromised systems, and illegal surveillance equipment. Mom's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Zaylee, what is happening? What's happening? I said calmly. is that actions have consequences. You knew? Dad's voice was hollow. This whole time, you knew? I found the cameras a week ago. The laptop compromise, the stolen client information, all of it. I looked around the table at their horrified faces. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? But you acted so normal, Sydney whispered. I'm a very good actress when I need to be. Emmett suddenly stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. I have to go. I have to explain. Explain what? I asked. That you planted surveillance equipment in my house? That you stole confidential client data? That you destroyed my career for your own benefit? It wasn't supposed to hurt you this much. Oh, well, that makes it all better then. Mr. Stewart, William's voice boomed from the phone. 25 minutes. Don't make this worse for yourself. The call ended, leaving us in suffocating silence. Zaylee, please, Mom said, tears streaming down her face. There has to be some way to fix this. Fix this? I laughed, and the sound was sharp enough to cut glass. You want me to fix the mess you made? We're family. Family doesn't spy on each other. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't celebrate destroying each other's lives. Sydney was sobbing now. We didn't mean for it to go this far. You meant for it to go exactly this far. You just didn't mean to get caught. What's going to happen to Emmett? She asked. He's going to be fired, probably prosecuted, definitely blacklisted from every tech company in the city. I took another sip of wine. What did you think would happen when you decided to commit felonies? Emmett was pacing now, running his hands through his hair. There has to be something we can do, some way to make this right. You could have made it right 4 months ago, by not doing it in the first place. Zaylee, please, Dad said. He's just a kid who made a mistake. He's 27 years old, and this wasn't a mistake. This was a calculated plan to destroy my career. For us, Sydney screamed. He did it for us, because we needed help. He did it for money. You all did it for money. That's not true. I pulled out my phone and played the recording from Friday night. Their own voices filled the room, casual and cruel. She's too soft. She'd never suspect her own family. She'll forgive us like she always does. When the recording ended, Sydney was hyperventilating. You recorded us? I recorded criminals confessing to crimes. There's a difference. We're your family, Mom shouted. No, I said, standing up. Family protects each other. Family supports each other. Family doesn't plot each other's destruction over dinner. In the distance, sirens wailed, getting closer. Emmett's face went white. They called the police. Of course they did. Corporate espionage is a federal crime. Zaylee, you have to help us, Sydney begged. You have to tell them it was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding! I stared at her in disbelief. You systematically sabotaged my career for 4 months. You celebrated every client I lost, every promotion that got taken away. You laughed about it. The sirens were getting louder. Please, Mom whispered. We'll leave. We'll never bother you again. Just don't let them arrest him. You're going to leave anyway, all of you, tonight. Where are we supposed to go? Dad asked. I don't care. Figure it out the same way you figured out how to betray me. The sirens stopped outside my house. Car doors slammed. Emmett looked at me one last time. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. The doorbell rang. That's for you, I said, pointing toward the front door. As Emmett walked toward his fate, Sydney grabbed my arm. How could you do this to us? I looked down at her hand, then back at her tear-streaked face. Very easily, as it turns out. The police knocked again, more insistently this time. Emmett Stewart? I heard through the door. We have a warrant for your arrest. I walked to the front door and opened it, stepping aside to let the officers in. He's in the dining room, I said. Finishing dinner. As they led Emmett away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one more time. This isn't over, he said. I smiled. Yes, it is. The house felt different after they left. Bigger somehow, like it could finally breathe again. I spent the rest of the evening cleaning up the dinner dishes and broken wine glass, methodically erasing every trace of what had happened. By midnight, my dining room looked normal again, as if the most satisfying meal of my life had never occurred. Wednesday morning, I went to work early. Marcus was already at his desk when I arrived at 7 a.m. "You're here early," he said, looking surprised. "Couldn't sleep. Too excited about the Meridian project." "About that. I got a strange call yesterday. Pinnacle Tech wanted to discuss a potential partnership on a Meridian Industries account, but when I looked into it, there's no record of any company by that name." I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. "That's because I made it up." Marcus stared at me. "You what?" "Long story, but I think you'll find that our security issues are about to resolve themselves permanently." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You destroyed my life. I hope you're happy." I deleted it without responding. Tiffany arrived an hour later with coffee and a concerned expression. "You look different today," she said, studying my face. "Different how?" "I don't know. Lighter? Like you've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down." "That's surprisingly accurate." "Want to talk about it?" I considered telling her everything, but some stories were too personal to share, even with friends. "Let's just say I solved my family problem." "The hypothetical one?" "It wasn't hypothetical." Tiffany sat on the edge of my desk. "Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay. I'm free." That afternoon, William Mann called personally. "Ms. Whitney, I wanted to update you on the situation. Emmett has been terminated and will face federal charges. Our legal team is also pursuing civil damages." "Good. There's something else. We're impressed with how you handled this situation. Professional, thorough, decisive. We have an opening for a senior project manager, and we'd like to discuss it with you." "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an opportunity. Better salary, better benefits, and a company that values integrity." I looked around my current office, thinking about all the years I'd spent here, all the clients I'd lost, all the promotions that had been stolen from me. "When can we meet?" Friday evening, I was alone in my house for the first time in 6 months. I ordered Chinese takeout, opened a bottle of wine, and sat in my living room, my actual living room, not a space I was sharing with people who hated me. The doorbell rang around 8. I opened it to find Sydney standing on my porch, looking smaller and younger than I'd ever seen her. "Can I come in?" "No." "Please, I just want to talk." "We have nothing to talk about. Emmett's in jail. He can't make bail." "I know." "Mom and Dad are staying at a motel. They can't afford an apartment." "Not my problem." Sydney's face crumpled. "How can you be so cold? We're your family." "You were my family, past tense. One mistake doesn't erase 29 years. I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. It wasn't one mistake, Sydney. It was 4 months of deliberate, calculated betrayal. It was celebrating my failures. It was laughing about how naive I was to trust you. We were desperate. So was I. I was desperate for my family to love me enough not to destroy me. We do love you. No, you love what I could provide. There's a difference." Sydney wiped her nose with her sleeve. "What are we supposed to do now?" "The same thing I did when I was your age and had nothing. Figure it out." "I don't know how." "Then learn. The way I had to learn, without anyone's help. Please, Zaylee. I'm begging you." I looked at this person who shared my DNA but had never shared my values, my work ethic, or my loyalty. "You made your choice when you decided to betray me. Now live with it." I went back inside and locked the door. Sunday morning, I was drinking coffee in my kitchen when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? This is Detective Rodriguez with the Financial Crimes Unit. We're investigating the corporate espionage case involving Emmett Stewart. How can I help you?" We need to discuss your testimony for the grand jury. Are you available to come in this week? Absolutely. After I hung up, I sat in my quiet kitchen and realized something had shifted inside me. The anger was gone. The hurt was fading. What remained was something I hadn't felt in years: peace. My phone buzzed with another text from Sydney. Mom's in the hospital. Heart palpitations from stress. She's asking for you. I read it twice, then deleted it. Some bridges, once burned, were meant to stay that way. I finished my coffee, got dressed, and drove to the office. I had a resignation letter to write and a new life to start. The house would be quiet when I got home, but it would be mine. Every room, every corner, every breath of air would belong to me and no one else. For the first time in my adult life, that felt like enough. It felt like everything.